Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Calhoun's. The Vols are at Georgia next week, but if you're watching the game with family and friends, pick up a Feed 5 or Feed 10 family pack from Calhoun's. Ribs or barbecue, all the sides, the utensils make cleaning up easy. It's perfect. And since you're probably not going to have a lot of fun watching that game, the food should at least be good. That can raise the spirits. Calhoun's Feed 5, Feed 10 family packs, nothing better in the state of Tennessee. I want to welcome in next two members of our panel right here, longtime sports writer Bob Hodge, longtime sports writer down there Chuck Cavallari. It's good to have both of you here. Longtime members of the Sports Source, going back all the way to Seymour in year one. Heart read segment, so each of you, I'm pairing you off, you each get a question. Bob and Will, let's take a look at Tennessee's schedule. At number 2, Georgia, open date. At number 9, Auburn. Number 1, Alabama. Then at South Carolina, Charlotte, Kentucky, who will be ranked tomorrow, Missouri, and at Vanderbilt. UT has now lost 10 straight Southeastern Conference football games. Who on that list do you think Tennessee will beat, if you had to pick?
Oh, on the list, because I was going to say Arkansas.
Yeah. Who on that list would you say
on that list outside of Charlotte? You know, your best shot, and maybe your only shot, is going to be Vanderbilt, I think. I don't see Tennessee's defensive backs being able to slow down Missouri. I don't see Tennessee's offense being able to do much at South Carolina with the defense that they have. Kentucky just looks like to be a pretty decent football team that can run the ball. I mean, I think Vanderbilt is your only legitimate shot, taking out the anything can happen.
That's a team that's beaten you with regularity the last 6 years, by the way, pretty much.
Well, I was just saying the open day, at least you don't lose one. I mean, that's about where we're at. I mean, Charlotte's your only real team that you can honestly say.
And I'm talking SEC. So take them out.
But I mean that's your win. Now, in the SEC right now, you're going to be the underdog against every one of those teams, even against Vanderbilt. You're going to be the underdog. And so things are going to have to go right for you. You can't line up and beat any one of those teams.
And there's the key. One, you have to pray for improvement and that they don't quit through this next 4-game schedule, which I think there's a good chance. But also, you look at Old Dominion beating Virginia Tech. Stuff happens in football. So I almost said something else. Stuff happens in football. So maybe the other team comes out and gives you 6 turnovers, 4 turnovers in the first half. But I think on paper, playing the odds, you're an underdog in all those games. So let me turn it on you. If Tennessee does the impossible and goes winless in the SEC again, you will have lost 17 consecutive SEC football games. At that point, you know, right now everybody talks about, well, we just got to get back to the tradition. If you lose 17 straight games, haven't you just burned it all the way to the ground? Are you rebuilding at that point, or you just have to build?
If you do that, you are an historically bad SEC football team. You're not just the worst team Tennessee's had for a couple of years. You are then historically bad. I don't think you burn it all to the ground, but it really, where do you start over at? I mean, where does patience get lost? I mean, I think it already is lost, but I've said all along, judge Jeremy Pruitt in year 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or 4.
Or 4 or 5. But if you do that this year, do you become a year 2 is suddenly looming large for you? This is not a patient fan base.
Quickly will.
This is the Parthenon. I mean, Greece used to be a great right now, but they have old stadiums and old things that were greatness of their signs. Until you figure out a way to get out of this, you're a long ways away, because offensive, defensive line are not first-year recruit out and you've got guys ready to play. You're a ways away. You're years away at this point of having a chance to be back in this league.
Tennessee and Nebraska, dominant in the 90s, and they are way down there low right now, kind of next to each other. Jimmy and Chuck, and I'll start with Chuck since you're just sitting down with us. Give me your thoughts on the defense to date. A lot of us talk in the preseason that, you got a lot of 4 and 5 stars. You got Jeremy Pruitt and that great genius that he brings to it. Is this defense where you expected? Is it not where you expected? What are your thoughts on the defense so far?
Well, I mean, I think it is what it is. I mean,
that's not an answer.
Well, I mean, it's better, but I think it's a defense that's just waiting to give up 31 points to a good offense. I think that you've made some improvement. The defensive line, I thought, did some good things. Where are your linebackers? I mean, it's like you don't even notice the Tennessee linebackers hardly. Secondary's so young, making mistakes. Boy, they were put in so many horrible situations yesterday with the turnovers. But, I mean, there's so many things I think you got to look at first, but the defense is not good enough, I think, to go out there and create several turnovers and win the game by itself.
Tackling was brutal at times. Josh mentioned that Jordan Scarlett run in the first play of the second half. That looked like a quit to me. Your thoughts, Jimmy? Where's this defense?
I think the defense is a little bit better than it was a year ago. They're not getting gouged in the running game like they were a year ago, where they gave up over 250 yards a game. But they're still not very good. And I thought Pruitt said it last night when he talked about whenever Florida's running backs had the ball, they kept going forward for 2, 3, 5 yards, whatever it was. So the tackling wasn't very good. And they got out of position. And then I thought their football IQ at times wasn't very good, where there was a linebacker that came off of a receiver to go get to the quarterback who was 10 yards behind the line scrambling, and they threw it over his head for a 75-yard touchdown. You got to have better football instincts than that. Defense better, but it's not near where it needs to be competent in the SEC.
If you're going to have big busts, I expect to see them in the secondary, where you've got guys who are on the field for the very first time. There are the other levels of that defense, they've been on the field. You shouldn't be seeing massive brain freezes.
Going to Jimmy's point about the tackling, people saying it looked like they quit, it reminded me of at Vanderbilt 2 years ago. Yeah. When I thought you visibly saw Tennessee not even putting out the effort to tackle, and I thought you saw some of that last night.
In the second half, I did too.
Yeah.
I saw some folks are saying that, well, they improved from Florida to West Virginia. I disagree. And the reason is Florida was having big plays last night. And Florida doesn't have near the talent of West Virginia. They don't have near the quarterback. They don't have as good a receivers, I don't think. So I'm not saying they haven't improved over last year, but in terms of, well, they've gotten better game by game. They got better against 2 weak foes, which we said.
Yep.
I don't know that they got better from West Virginia to Florida. And maybe they can't due to athletic ability, but that's another segment. When we come back, all of our VFLs join us. 3 up, 3 down. We got to whittle the list down to 3 down. We got to figure out who are the 3 up, if there are any. Come on back.